I get it. You've probably spent a few evenings scrolling through endless monitor listings, trying to picture how a 49-inch screen will actually fit on your desk, and wondering if you'd end up paying a premium for a gimmick instead of real performance. You don't want to waste money on something that looks great on paper but turns out to be a headache when you finally plug it in. That hesitation is especially real with ultra-wide panels because they're a bigger commitment. They demand space, a capable graphics card, and the right use case to actually feel worth it. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Thermaltake 49-inch DQHD curved monitor lands right in the middle of that decision matrix. At first glance, the 51201440 resolution and the 240 Hz refresh rate scream gaming beast, but the real question is whether those numbers translate into everyday enjoyment for you, whether you're a competitive shooter fan, a content creator, or someone who just wants a more immersive desktop. Let's start with the actual experience of sitting in front of a 1800R curve that stretches nearly half a wall. The curve is subtle enough that you don't feel like you're looking at a fish tank, yet it does reduce the need to swivel your head when you're tracking across the massive field of view. I tested it with a mix of titles **Valorant** for its split-second reaction demands, Microsoft Flight Simulator to see how the extra horizontal real estate handles panoramic scenery, and a couple of productivity sessions with Adobe Premiere. In the shooter, the 1 millisecond GTG response paired with the adaptive sync, it works with both NVIDIA G-Sync and AMD FreeSync, meant there was essentially no ghosting when I cranked the graphics settings up. The frame rate stayed smooth even when the game spiked to 220 frames per second, and the monitor didn't flicker or introduce tearing. That's the kind of buttery smoothness that makes a high refresh rate feel justified, not just a brag-worthy spec sheet. For Flight Sim, the 5120-pixel width gave me the ability to line up multiple instrument panels side by side without sacrificing readability. The HDR10 support, while not a full VESA display HDR 600 certification, still delivered a noticeable boost in contrast when I toggled the HDR mode in a few newer titles. The 10-bit color depth, over a billion shades, meant the sky gradients were smoother, and the monitor's anti-glare coating kept reflections at bay even in a bright room. It wasn't a Hollywood-level experience, but it was a step up from the typical 1080p panels I've used for years. If you're a content creator, the extra horizontal space can be a genuine productivity booster. I opened two windows side by side, a timeline in Premiere on the left and a reference video on the right without having to shrink them down to unreadable sizes. The built-in picture-in-picture (PIP) and picture-be-picture (PBP) modes let you feed two different sources, say, a laptop via HDMI and a desktop via DisplayPort, into the same screen, which is handy for streamers who need to monitor chat on one side while gaming on the other. The USB-C port also handled video and power delivery, so I could connect a laptop with a single cable and keep my desk tidy. Now, where does the monitor fall short? First, the price tag is steep enough that you'll want to be sure your GPU can actually push those high refresh rates at DQHD resolution. In my tests, a RTX 3080 could sustain around 150,180 frames per second in Cyberpunk 2077 at high settings. Anything lower and you won't see the full benefit of 240 Hz. If your rig is still on a GTX 1660 or a comparable mid-range card, you might end up with a beautiful screen that you can't fully exploit, which is a classic case of overspec ANG. Second, the sheer size means you need a decent amount of desk depth, around 30-35 inches, to keep the viewing distance comfortable. If your workspace is cramped, you'll find yourself craning forward, which defeats the ergonomic intent of the curve. Third, while the HDR10 implementation is decent for a monitor at this price point, it won't match the brightness peaks of dedicated HDR TVs, so bright outdoor scenes can still look a bit washed out. Who should definitely consider this monitor? If you're a competitive gamer who already runs a high-end GPU and wants the fastest response times without sacrificing resolution, the Thermaltake's 1 millisecond GTG and adaptive sync make it a strong contender. Flight sim enthusiasts and racing sim fans who thrive on immersive horizontal fields will appreciate the wraparound feel and the ability to keep multiple gauges in view. Creative professionals who need extensive screen real estate for timelines, code editors, or design tools will find the PIP/PBP features a practical workflow enhancer. Who might want to skip it? If you're primarily a casual gamer who plays at 1080p or 1440p, the cost of this panel may not be justified, especially if your graphics card can't push high frame rates at DQHD. Small room users think a dorm or a home office with a modest desk will likely struggle to fit the monitor comfortably, leading to neck strain. And